And here's the thing. What should Boris Johnson's roadmap look like? 0344 499 1000. We have some detail. They've done the spoiler alerts that seems to be the normality now whenever there's a big announcement. Get it with budgets, don't you? You sort of know the whole budget about 4 days before the budget. And now with this, we've got some detail. All schools are to open in England on the 8th of March. We've already got detail, of course, on Wales and Scotland. This is part of the Prime Minister's cautious 4-part plan. Note those words, a 4-part plan to lift the coronavirus lockdown. Mr. Johnson will share his finalised roadmap with ministers before unveiling it to MPs and then leading a news conference at 7 this evening. So we understand up to 6 people or 2 households will be allowed to meet outdoors from the 29th of March. This is according to the Vaccines Minister, Nadeem Sahawi. Rules lifted at stages and 4 conditions must be met at each stage. So the first stage, 8th of March, all schools reopen with outdoor after-school sports and activities allowed. Recreation in a public space, such as a park, will be allowed between 2 people. How does that work? Well, there's no football then, right? Meaning they would be allowed to sit down for a coffee, a drink, or a picnic. Oh, bless. 29th of March is a big old leap, 3 weeks away from the first announcement. 8 outdoor gatherings of either 6 people or 2 households will be allowed. It's understood this will include gatherings in private gardens. Outdoor sports facilities such as tennis or basketball courts will reopen, and organised adult and kids sport like grassroots football, there it is, it's back, will return. And the list goes on. 0344 499 1000. What do you want to see Boris's roadmap look like? What should be on there that isn't on there? Because there is a big old school of thought that, let's get this thing moving. And we heard the incredible news today about vaccines, that the reduction in hospital admissions looks absolutely extraordinary at the moment. The details on that are so encouraging that one would assume that it would be an utter game changer. And this information, how or whether it was kept private beforehand, I've got no idea. But what we do know, this information chimes brilliantly with what we're hearing today about the easing of the lockdown. And of course, the answer goes, or the conclusion goes, that if the vaccines are working, was it 85% fewer people turning up in hospital? So massive success for the vaccine deployment. That is surely the recipe for unlocking. I noticed the headlines today, a recipe for never unlocking. Tories slam Boris's 4 tests as he prepares to announce all schools will return on the 8th of March. What are you making of this? I mean, the vaccine story is absolutely incredible. This data comes out of Scotland to begin with, the first proof that the vaccine rollout is working. Compelling real-world data from Scotland shows 1 dose of either jab cuts the risk of being hospitalised by up to 95%. This is absolutely massive. When all of this happened, of course, right at the beginning, and all the way through, the big line has been, well, until we get a vaccine, we've got to stay in some kind of lockdown. Even when we've eased the lockdowns over the last almost a year now, there's still been regulations in place. So the masks in certain places, the social distancing, restrictions in restaurants where instead of 30 tables there's only 15. So we've never been back to normality since the first lockdown, and we were told forever that the one thing that's going to make the difference here will be the vaccine. And so when the vaccine came along, up until last week, we were all rubbing our hands thinking this looks rather good. Now we have this today, which looks like not inconclusive but conclusive proof that the vaccine rollout is working, that having that first jab cuts the risk of being hospitalised by up to 95%. Game-changing, right? What are we waiting for, Boris? 0344 499 1000. What do you want that roadmap to look like? We know about schools. We've got a few morsels about outdoor activities. We're hearing that sitting together with your mate, having a Costa on a park bench, will be given the green light. But that's kind of it. I'm juxtaposing this with the data about the vaccines and thinking to myself, hang on a sec, how long is this easing going to go on for? We've got 4 months of easing to get through. The smart money, of course, from those who are opposed to opening up will be, well, we've got to wait and see. Well, we've got a vaccine that works in a way that I don't even think those that put the vaccine together imagined it could work. 95% fewer people ending up. You've got a 95%, 90, just hear the words, 95%. One dose of either jab cuts the risk of being hospitalized by 95%. We're not talking 58, 62, 70, 95%. I'm going to keep saying this because this is absolutely huge news. 95%. That, to me, if you were the philosopher's favourite alien coming down to this planet and thinking, right, what do they do next? Well, you open up the country, surely. 95% vaccine. Job done. Job done, Mr. Johnson. 0344 499 1000. And have you hit the tipping point yet? Do you know the tipping point where the lockdown has actually begun to mush your brain? Even if you go to work. I go to work every day. I work in a different part of the area from where I live. So I live in Kent, work in London, jump on a train every day. I see people. I've got social activity in the sense that I can have conversations with other human beings, mostly other human beings, and that's great. And you get the optics are different, right? You can see life around you. Some people haven't even got that. So despite that, I'm still, the fatigue, I think, really kicked in this weekend. And interestingly, the weather was a little bit, it was like the first weekend it hasn't either snowed, been -4, or poured hard for the entirety of the weekend. So the weather was kind of all right. It wasn't even particularly cold. So you could go out for your little walk, your exercise, and kind of be all right with that. But there was still that sense, you can't do anything. You can't go anywhere. I walked past my local pub and thought, nipping in for a bite to eat or just a pint would be absolutely lovely. This is going to send us absolutely nuts. I'm as mad as biscuits right now. I don't know what to do with myself. And I'm a bloke that can get out of the house and come to work and interact. So the idea of lockdown easing can't come soon enough because we are going to be absolutely scuppered. As mentally, as a nation, we're going to be absolutely scuppered if we don't get this thing up and running in the next 4 or 5 weeks. And I think that's generous, right? 4 or 5 weeks, surely. 0344 499 1000. I want your stories on that. I want your interpretation on what you think the Prime Minister might do, or perhaps more crucially, what he might not do. And I'll put all of this under one question. What should Boris Johnson's roadmap look like to you?